Thank you very much, and I hope this will work. And having in mind the time frame, and we are a little bit late, and also that a lot of issues I prepared to talk about were raised already, so I will try to compress my presentation. But I cannot do that in an absolute way, because I would like to address at least some of dilemmas which maybe came to complete those already put on the table today. And also I would like to address some specificities of the present day situation in case of Romania. And in Romania, sustainable finance is at this moment, it is perceived mainly as a policy tool, of course, consisting of several elements, and the scope is very generous. Of course, ESG cannot be denied that it's a stringent problem of everybody, or in general of humanity. And but in this context, we should see that the tools we have, or the tools we plan, are fit to help us to reach those very generous goals. And of course we can see that Romania has followed very loyally every EU initiative in this field of the ESG, and the National Supervisory Authority plays a very leading role in promoting ESG in the Romanian market. But these positive facts cannot hide the truth that there are also limited effects in reality in the market of the ESG policies. And in this context, we can raise also the general issue, because we are talking about a policy goal here. What is the role of regulation, of law in general, in reaching ESG goals, and in directing capital flows to sustainable investments? And we must observe that, of course, law can play a very important role, but it's just one of the factors which can be used and must be used to reach these goals. And the harder measures already were tackled today. It is a complicated issue because beside obvious incentives, harder measures can be also counterproductive. Harder measures can limit competitiveness and can have a side effect that capital flows will find other markets if the market products are not really competitive. So this is a real risk. And when I am reading EU documents, that those are not really are addressing these issues, and they have a very specific language of very optimistic language, and somehow for Eastern Europeans that language seemed a little bit awkward. I put a very short quote on the slide. The transition intensifies toward the sustainable economy, green economy. It reminds somebody who lived before 1898 in this region. This kind of intensifying the transition, it reminds that that was the same wording used during the Soviet-type dictatorship, intensifying transition to the socialist economy, intensifying transition exactly to the communist-type economy. So yes, the same language. It was strange to find those words in this context, but we have something in common, and already I was unaware that I can say it in this context, but somebody else did it before me. It was Jens that he somehow used the word in this context of planned economy. So in addressing this kind of tool, it is in creation practically now. It's a sort of planned economy, and planned economy can have a certain efficiency, but also high risks. Also high risk. So it is a rigidity, inelasticity are factors which also must be considered. And yes, environmental problems are very real, but the available methods designed at this level by the EU seems to be imperfect in many ways, at least to some of us. I checked the Romanian legal literature, and actually I have found some articles on non-financial reporting and some articles on ESG, in total 5, 6, and all are also very EU enthusiastic. No critical voice was raised actually in the legal literature. And of course, investment culture and policy are also defining, and are factors which are very, very important. And the anyway complex situation was made even more complex to the present crisis and war in Ukraine, and its effects which we cannot see at this moment on the energy market. So this can affect our green dreams, of course, in a fundamental way, and this is also a factor which must be taken into consideration. And of course, the topic is very large, and we use the term sustainable in a new sense. It's a legal notion today, and this is a sense in which means something which is at least is not aggravating the situation of the environment and the social crisis. But I checked the legislation, and in the capital market regulation in Romania, there are several times the sustainability occurs, but in a totally different sense. It refers on the sustainability of the issuer, sustainability of the dividends, which means that actually the economic performance is lasting in time and nothing else. So this new notion of sustainability at this moment was not introduced into the legislation. And another dilemma is that goals are at very macro level, even global level, or at least EU level. And of course, the studies I tried to find that I have found numbers that what is the sum which is missing from the economy to achieve the CO2 reduction goals, for example. But economic analysis on from where those capital can be created and found and put to work, ESG goals seems too little to achieve that in this case. And these dilemmas are faced even if we want to analyze even at a geographically limited level in a relatively small country, the effects of the EU law. And last dilemma is that that insurance companies and pension fund managers and so on, investment funds and investment funds managers and issuers, are they the optimizers, ideal structures to reach the goals, environmental goals proposed by the EU? And I am not really sure that these are the best fit actors to make that huge environmental change we can find in very optimistic EU documents. And seeing the Romanian legislation in force, Romanian capital market is really small. For example, if we can compare to Germany, it's 90 times smaller, the market capitalization in Romania than in Germany. It's a small stock exchange ranking at the 56th level globally. But of course, ESG, due to the EU, was raised in this context. And also I checked the whole legislation on capital markets, and most of the regulations, including corporate governance code of the Bucharest Stock Exchange and the main law on capital markets and so on, are, I can say, ESG neutral. They don't deal with the issue. Actually, we have norms in the internal legislation in two acts. One is from 2017, which was modified recently due to the EU directives and also regulations. And this kind of norms were introduced in 2020, actually. And for example, when defining persons acting in concert, the law states that are acting in concert also the persons who decide to or agree to vote in a certain way on the environmental issues and policy of the company. But okay, we have a definition of persons acting in concert that does not help us to reach effectively any ESG goal. And of course, Romania has implemented the engagement policy rules, but those, of course, again, are ESG related, are disclosure related, but no specificities, and must be explained somehow the certain behavior of a company, and also the opting out option exists if there is a justification for that. What seems original is the rule also introduced in 2020 in an emergency ordinance, which is act of legal force in Romanian constitutional law. It refers on securities, and this emergency ordinance introduced an administrative responsibility for breaching the Directive 2088, and the Romanian financial supervisory authority can fine very harshly the companies who are breaching the disclosure obligations. For example, the general amount of fines can reach 4.5 million of euros, or 10% of the last year's turnout. So the financial supervisory authority has a huge power and leverage to decide on that kind of sanctions. And last issue which I want to address it now is also original, or maybe other countries did not use this tool. The Romanian Financial Supervisory Authority issued a recommendation on prudent approach to climate risk, and made 6 recommendations. This is a leaflet, actually. It was printed, distributed in a high number, and also electronically. And every recommendation is explained. And the goal was to raise awareness of participants in the capital market to ESG. What is interesting that the Financial Supervisory Authority, to make these recommendations more effective, practically obliged the capital market actors to complete a document in which they must explain what they did regarding every recommendation you see on the screen. I won't go into details regarding that. And also, in the introduction to these recommendations, the authority explained that this is a first step, and new step are in preparation by the EU, by the Romanian authority, as well, to foster sustainability of finance. But in the concluding remarks of this recommendation document, there are also signs of some fears expressed by the authority, because the authority writes down that there is a structural shift, at least potentially a structural shift in economy, and there are opportunities, but there are also costs. And what is interesting and for me unrealistic, that the authority said that in this context of transition to green economy, that the pace of the transition should be somehow uniform in the EU, across Europe, because otherwise the negative effects can unbalance even much more the shift between the national economies in different EU member states. So, in a conclusion, the problems are very real, and we should make all the efforts necessary to tackle those problems. But of course, the main issue remains that the legislation which entered into force or will enter into force has an experimental nature, and it seems that we all agreed, or almost everybody agreed, that we have a speed problem, because if, of course, we can adjust, but the EU legislative mechanism is not like a national one, which permits very fast reaction if something goes wrong with the ESG type of regulations and directives. We cannot correct it in a fast way. So this is an additional risk from this point of view. Thank you very much.